All right, this is the regular meeting of the Darien Advisory Committee on Sustainability. It's December 8th. We're calling the meeting to order at 12:02. It's being held virtually only on the town's GoTo meeting platform, as indicated on the agenda posted with the town clerk and on the web. First item on the agenda is to approve the past minutes, which were appended to the email that I sent out. I read them. I didn't have any comments on them.
I don't either.
No, good.
Can I get a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand towards the camera.
Aye.
Aye.
Normally we have to do roll call votes, but it's just the minutes, so they're approved unanimously. All right. So going back to where I put the agenda, and so the second item on the agenda is the schedule for 2022, which a draft of was also appended to the email. And I, as a default, just went with 12 o'clock on the second Wednesday of every month, but I'm happy to hear from our committee members to see what works. We certainly want to encourage participation.
I have no problem with 12:30.
Okay, or I can do 12 like any other day of the week, but like a mandatory staff meeting is at noon.
Yeah. But 12:30 works for you, Dan? Carol?
Yeah, 12:30 is fine.
Cliff,
Sure.
how does that generally work for you?
Well, 12:30 is better for me.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
fine
thank
for
you.
me.
I really appreciate it.
Okay. So with that adjustment, are we otherwise happy? The way I have it listed at the top, maybe I should turn it around. I assume we're going to continue online, at least early in the year, as a preference, and that we would only maybe meet in room 206 from time to time. And so maybe that's the way I'll phrase it in the top of this meeting schedule. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Sure.
Being online is definitely easier as far as, me leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working from home, but
it turns a 1 hour meeting into a 2 hour meeting.
It does.
With the travel time. So
which can be traveling.
so
challenging.
as long as we're kind of permitted to do virtually, I agree. There might be reason from time to time that getting together makes sense, but I'll turn that around a little bit. Okay, so with the two adjustments, the meeting time at 12:30 with online as the first preference and 206 as an option, do I have a motion to approve the 2022 meeting schedule?
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Right, any comment? Christine, just to bring you up to speed, now that I see you on, we're in the middle of approving the 2022 meeting schedule, which is going to stay set for the second Wednesday of each month. We decided to change it to 12:30 at start time instead of a 12 start time.
Okay.
And that virtual would be the likely priority for holding meetings, and room 206 would be an option.
Okay.
Okay, so, and we're voting on that now, so you can vote or not, Christine, with that quick explanation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Cliff, you good with that? Yep, I think I see his hand. Okay, so we're unanimous on the 22 meeting agenda as adjusted. I will make those adjustments, Cliff, and get them to you. Maybe when you transmit the minutes, you could transmit the schedule as well, since you have correspondence with the town clerk. All right, I could do that by email. And then we don't necessarily have to take action on item 2B, but I promised that we would talk about it. And actually, before I go on, I see, Monica, I see that you're on. Perhaps you're just kind of auditing and listening along, but I want to give you the option to say something if you wanted to.
No, I'm listening in. Happy that you're still running a meeting there, Craig.
It will be it will be a supportive transition, not a quick departure.
Well, I think the committee in general is in great shape, but I wanted to thank you for your service.
Well, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure. I've been very proud of the work that we all have done and have accomplished in the last 9 years, and hopefully great things are still to come.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right, item 2B would be selection of officers for 2022. As you all know, I will be stepping off the committee, and we're looking for certainly people to fill the leadership role. And so technically, we ought to have assigned a chair, a vice chair to take on things if the chair is unavailable, and a secretary. Those are the normal officer seatings. I have talked offline to Carolyn because I think that she would be a fantastic chair and would garner everybody's support. She certainly has a significant amount of experience on this committee and probably has the most institutional knowledge of all of us. She's scared. So I'll let her speak for herself on her thoughts after our conversation.
So thank you for your vote of confidence, Craig. I personally wouldn't be my first choice. I think anyone who knows me knows that this is sort of this is outside my zone of comfort. I think of myself as a very dedicated worker bee, but you know, I also believe in what we're doing. You know, especially I think it's really important for us to be recertified by Sustainable CT. And to your point, I probably do have more institutional. I think you were just saying that I'm old, but that's okay.
That's not what I meant. I meant knowledgeable.
I mean, as long as there's no one else who really has a burning desire to take over, I'm happy to help.
Good, I vote for you.
Me too.
Me 3.
Me 4.
So what I would ask as a departing gift would be knowing that Carolyn feels tentative in such a role that you all are offering to support her as needed. She might not be the first to ask for help, so perhaps others need to be the first to offer it.
Of course.
Absolutely.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, Cliff, you've done a wonderful job taking our minutes. I would love it if you would be willing to continue the role as secretary, if that works for you. And similarly, you know, Dan, given your history in town, and also what I'd like to do is to have a member of each party at chair and vice chair. Hopefully, you would be willing to continue as well. I don't know if either of you have any thoughts on the matter.
No, I would love to support Carolyn. I think she'll do a great job. And she is a leader, whether she knows it or not. She's a leader.
Amen.
Absolutely.
I'm a worker bee.
No, you're not.
No.
There's
You know,
different.
Carolyn, at Xerox as a senior executive, I taught leadership to young executives many years down in Leesburg for a year. Once a year, I go down to Leesburg and I train young executives on leadership. And leaders make things happen. That's the role of a leader. And you and Craig have made things happen. So you're a leader.
Well, thank you, Dan. I really appreciate that. But Craig is leaving very big shoes to fill, so I am very scared.
You've got my phone number and my email
I was
address.
going to say, I'm guessing you call him.
Anything to support. Cliff, are you comfortable with all this?
I'm totally comfortable with the other nominations. I'm a little bit reluctant to do the minutes for a third year. I'd rather be doing something more productive, but I'm willing to start the year with the understanding that maybe halfway through someone else might pick it up.
Okay, so we need a volunteer willing to work the minutes with Cliff.
I can do that.
Okay, great. And maybe, you can either take it over or you could trade off and on as you guys want to work out. I'll leave that to you guys.
Okay.
So for now, maybe we wait till January to take an official vote on, well, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe we don't need to wait. So let's not wait. Let's just get it done. Which is, do I have let's start from secretary. Do we have a nomination for someone to fill the role of secretary? I think we're going with Christine, right? With a supportive transition, similarly. All right, so I nominate Christine.
I'll second Christine.
Any discussion? All those in favor say
Great.
aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I would like to nominate Mr. Dulcetti to return as vice chair.
I'll second Dan.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Do I have a hand, Christine? Yeah. Yep, okay, good. All right. And do I have a nomination for chair?
Carolyn. I nominate Carolyn.
I'll second that.
Third.
Any further discussion on that nomination? All those in favor say aye.
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 There it is. We'll just say, I'll continue today. We'll say that starts on January 1st in 2022. Is that good?
Sounds good.
All right, so we got the minutes done. We've talked about officers. We talked about the schedule, and now we're on to our charge. I thought I had a full charge on here. I didn't. I actually meant to, but I think, look, I think certainly for 2022, the primary focus is going to be on recertification of the town with sustainable CT. So that's the primary focus and primary charge. We will also, to the extent it is helpful and necessary, function as the town's energy task force, as may be helpful for certain energy items. And we will continue to function as kind of a one of the citizen oversights on the function of the refuse and recycling center, including the swap shop, which includes all operations there, including things near and dear to our heart, like the continued success and expansion of the food scrap program. Does anybody else have anything to add to that kind of general charge?
Yeah, I mean, I know, just Caroline, you're doing a lot of the sort of the social media presence. I assume we want to keep that up. If you're feeling tasked with the chair position, I'm happy to sort of step in with some of that. But I do think that's an important presence, and I'm not sure, maybe we can beef that up a little bit more too, like on Instagram and such.
Sure.
I think that could be an area that we should focus on, since we are still in the pandemic and can't be as much face to face.
I think it's a great idea. I think that mention of outreach and social media can be put in the charge. I appreciate
that,
you.
Again, including on the website as well. I'm happy to sort of take the lead in those areas, if that is.
That's fantastic, and I know that Carolyn does spend a lot of time crafting those posts and being careful with them. And really, what I've said in the past is, you look through the history now that Carolyn has in the Facebook page and of 5 years of posts, and it's actually rich in information. Some of it can be repeated from time to time because
I was just gonna say that.
that's
Yeah.
right. So there's a focus on that, repeated update, and I appreciate you raising your hand, taking some of the burden off of Carolyn, which is I think what we're looking for. Sharing the load.
Of course. Yeah. You're gonna have to, I think, just give me some admin rights, as a administrator for it. That
Yeah,
page.
and I do actually have the Instagram set up as well, but
Or I can create a new Instagram one if it's.
Yeah, and we may have to recreate it because there seems to be a glitch with it. Every time I post, it doesn't really. We'll talk about it offline.
Okay. Yeah, I manage one for my office, so I'm happy to do that.
Excellent. Anything else on the charge? All right, that sounds good for now. 3, communications. Anything to report in terms of communications with like organizations? I'm gonna pull up 5A under here because I think it relates to communications and outreach and education. Dan Dalsetti and myself and Reese Hutchison sat down for a hour with what's the name of the podcast?
Taylor and Liz. No.
Yeah, Taylor and Liz run the Darien Talks podcast. Should know the name. And they sent me the draft here. Maybe they have it in there. We recorded the podcast with them, which I think is going to be published on December 13th, and we'll forward that around when it is officially published. And the focus of the podcast was the swap shop and the good things that are done with all of the things that are given to the swap shop. And we did stray into other matters of recycling at the recycling center, including promotion of the food scrap program.
I was just going to ask if you plug the food scrap program.
Yeah, heavily. We did.
Thank you.
Because I was like, oh, if we're going to give an opportunity on air, here's the things that I want to say. So we'll forward that around when it's finally published. It was fun. And hopefully they say they have 1,000 to 2,000 listeners a month or per podcast. So hopefully that does a good job with some outreach. Anything else on communications over the last couple of weeks?
One quick thing, Craig. At the last Green Team meeting, I can't remember if I mentioned this at the last meeting or not. I'm forgetting when this happened, but Jamie Gore from Parks and Rec mentioned that they have some space available in the spring Parks and Rec's spring catalog. So she invited all of the members of the Green Team to, if you wanted to put in some sort of ad or, she doesn't know exactly how much space is going to be available, but she said, send me what you have and we'll fit things in. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to publicize the food scrap program because so many people still say, despite our efforts to try to promote it, that they aren't aware of it. So
keep talking about it. That's excellent. So that's a good segue into item number 4, which is items related to recycling. And the one item we have to talk about is the food scrap program. So yet another example of how well Carolyn gets things done. She jumped in after our last meeting and in the 3-day deadline wrote a letter of what was the
intent?
Letter of intent or letter of interest,
Interest, right? Yeah.
to apply for a sustainable materials management grant to help us expand our food scrap program. And that was received well. There were a few questions that were asked. We interfaced with Monica's office, and Monica sat down with her, went through everything, responded to the DEP, and we have made the list of municipalities that will be considered for this grant. There's still, we're still in the pre-application process, but we have the opportunity now to better define how we are going to use the money and the program expansion that we're going to try to create and sustain. Is that a good quick summary, Carolyn?
Yes, yes, that's a great summary. Thank you.
And so next steps on that, really, I think they were looking for a meeting where this transitions up to Ed and Monica and Kate, I think they were asking for, or in terms of the three people that they want to see interest from at the next step.
Yes, although I don't want to take up a lot of time going into the details of this, but I've been, trying to flush out a little bit more in terms of what we would propose to them. And it literally is like, it's going down a rabbit hole. I mean, it's getting more and more complicated, and I hope that it still works, but there have been a lot of questions that have been raised that complicate things. So, maybe we can talk about it offline and try to come up with the best solution before we meet with them. I think the only way that they're really going to allow us to actually formally apply for the grant is if we do have that component where we have curbside pickup, but just the sort of the structure of our town, the way the way it's structured with residents being able to choose their own hauler and so forth, it's just becoming increasingly complicated.
Yeah, it's not as easy to say we're responsible for city pickup, so we're going to do this, right?
No, because it has to do with pricing it correctly. It's really, we really do need a professional for this. I mean, I think about it constantly, and I just can't arrive at a really good model. I've been, doing a lot of research, trying to see how it's being done in other places, and I do have some suggestions, but I'm not 100% sure that any of them will work. So
yeah, I guess my thought is, if I were to kind of give some overarching suggestions, even if we're asking for less money, keeping it simple might be making it achievable. Right? If we, I'm generally comfortable with just continuing to move the needle in the right direction, so small bites as we go. So defining a list of concrete actions that we can take with a little extra money, and make sure they're achievable, that should be a focus. I think making necessary improvements to the physical plant, whether it's the hose wash and some sort of trap collector for the discharge of the hose wash, that's feasible, or a concrete pad to actually place bins on, or if they're going to be larger bins or a dumpster, right? Like, we need to say, this is exactly what we're going to do, and this is the cost we generally would apply to those things. And then, that's the physical plant improvements that are needed to allow for a scale. And then from there, it would have to be outreach to those haulers to say, hey, if we did this, would you participate, and how would you participate, and how does it work for you, to be able to kind of incorporate the bigger picture. That makes sense?
it does. The only problem is that they are looking for something that can be implemented quickly that has a huge reduction in MSW. So unless we can show that making those infrastructure changes is going to attract a significantly higher number of voluntary participants. I'm not sure that we can convince them.
And then the other thing to remember is this: we can only do what we can do. So we can say,
Right.
here are the actions that here are the concrete actions that we think we can take. Here are a hauler or more haulers that are willing to participate along with the residents, voluntary residents, you know, and that's what we can do. So, you know, they can decide whether to give us the money or not, but we can't overpromise.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So Ed, I would imagine that adding to your list of things to do, which I know are all conquerable, and you've got a lot of time off. This probably is one of those things moving up the chain towards your desk.
If it's not here already, right?
Yep, exactly. Kind of is there already. We're just pushing it along. All right, that was recycling and food scraps. Any questions on that? Swap shop podcast update. Any other items to talk about?
We're very slow at the swap shop. You know, it's winter time and it's cold, so not much happening. It's, you know, the inventory's down and very few people are coming. It's really in the summertime and spring and fall. In the winter time, it's very slow.
No spring cleaning in the winter, right?
That's right.
Hey, Craig and Dan both. I've been asked a couple times and asked to bring up at this meeting also the possibility of reopening on Saturdays again. And I know the First Selectman has an interest in that also. Just wondering what the thoughts are, if there are any. You know my feelings on it. As long as we do it safely and it's manned properly, that's the key for me over at that site. We are open 5 days a week right now, Dan. Is that correct? From
Yes.
7 to 1, I think, every day.
Right. Well, I had a brainstorming session with the volunteers the other day, you know, just to talk about this issue. And the concern that we have is that there's a major bottleneck and traffic jams that go on Saturday. How many people come in on a Saturday, Ed? Do you know the total number of cars that come in?
I think we average close to 1,000.
So you're talking about 1,000 cars. We have 14 parking places. So the problem is you have people that are, you know, they're looking, and that'll take 7 or 8, and then you have people who are bringing stuff in, and there are tremendous bottlenecks that go on where you have cars trying to come into the area, and we're trying to take cars out, and the line starts going all the way back to Ledge Road. In the meantime, people are coming down from, you know, taking their garbage, throwing their garbage out, and they want to come into the swap shop, and that starts to line up in the back. You have the loader that's trying to clean up over in the right area, and people are going over there to hold, and it's just a big mess. Craig, to give you an example, Craig and I were at the old high school, and they had, you know, 4 wings at the high school, and when the bell rang, we'd all conjugate in the middle, and we couldn't move. And give you an example, people that are coming into on Saturday are so frustrated because of this that they start calling us names, and I won't even mention the names we're called because of the bottlenecks that are going on. Now, we've got to figure out how we solve that problem of traffic and bottlenecks, because it's a problem waiting to happen, because all the fender benders that went on at the swap shop happened on Saturday. So it's an accident ready to happen. However, you know, in looking at the issue, I think you and I and Craig and Carolyn should get together because we have some ideas. The first one is if we can get cars to go out the back and not try to go into the crowd, That would be extremely helpful out the back. And if we can do that, then we say that, okay, you can only drop off on a Saturday, and we can have a circular flow on the inside where we can drop stuff off and go out the back. That would be workable. But right now, I would not recommend it unless the town solves that problem.
Those are actually two very good ideas. I mean, the way we described it on the podcast was it was a victim of its own success.
Well, I
and you
think
have that.
I think we can go out the back if we
Yeah,
work.
I like that. Because I mean, the issue is you have that right turn in right off the entrance. And if that gets backed up, you're now backing up everybody who's trying to get into the dump, whether they're going to the swap shop or not. So if you do drop off only and you're able to circle back around, you know, kind of taking through the construction area safely, that really creates a throughput, and you don't have people staying there and waiting and holding the spaces. And these are good ideas. So yeah, let's do that offline.
I have a question. Where are the volunteers supposed to park for the swap shop?
If it really gets on a Saturday, what I had them do is park across the street there. But
during the
when
week-
it's not crowded,
In
they
front
park
of DPW, right?
all the way in front. So it's not an issue. So you have 2 or 3 volunteers parking as you go in during the week. But if it starts to get crowded, then we park across the street or on that area.
Okay.
So one of the ideas, Ed, is to take, you know, where that dumpster is, where the logs are. If you can go behind where the construction is and go take that out and go around and have that circular flow, I think it could be workable.
Yeah, something to think
We
about.
have to talk
Ed's thinking about it already.
about it.
Again, I'm still wondering how the drop-off only works on a Saturday. That's, you know,
Well, what you would do is you would have as the cars come in, they could be circular around, because there wouldn't be any cars there up on top. Just cars coming in, circular, dumping them off, and off they go. So you'd have that whole parking area just dedicated to people dropping off.
But do you think that's something the residents would be acceptable to on a Saturday? What about the ones that want to come in and, because that's the only day, you know, that's what I'm hearing. That's our only day. We work all week long, that type of
But
thing.
is it the only day so they can drop things off, or the only day so they can pick things up, right?
Well, I think it's a day. All the thing I've heard is that drop off. You know, the men would like to drop it off on a Saturday. Now, if they want to look, they can, you know, as executives, they can go in a little late. You know, as executives, you can go in at 9 or 10 o'clock. Or if you're working at home, take a couple of hours and go to the swap shop. Am I correct?
I think the concept of
they can do that.
what we're doing, might be, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to mute you, Cliff, just because we're getting a little feedback on your phone. There we go. I like the out of the box thinking of how do we get to a yes? What would that look like to do it safely? And again, there's no saying we can't take steps in a direction to see how it's going and see what the traffic is and see what the load is and see how we can improve things and then take another step, right?
Yeah. The other thing, Ed, is maybe we can, you know, do both with the cars going out. We just have to experiment with it. But the key is the cars have to go out the back, because it just we can't control it as volunteers. Unless you want a policeman there trying to control
go up and
it. I don't
down
even think a
instead of left
policeman
and
would
right.
control it. Because they don't listen to us. They come down and they just stand there. I mean, you know that.
So
You're used to
you'll take a
calling.
look, Ed? You'll take a look? Is that at least what you'll offer? You'll take a look?
Yeah. I have a concern with that other area, putting cars over there if they don't belong, they don't need to be there. I have quite a large piece of equipment over there. We've talked about that before. That's why we have the containers. That's why we have the Jersey barriers and the Mafia block. I don't want vehicles over there unless they belong there.
Well, I'm thinking going in the back and going around, it might work. Let's talk.
How about this? Are there times that are not as busy on a Saturday? Like, could you do 7 to 9?
You know,
and
we're thinking about that, Craig. 7 to 9 or 7 to 9:30. Yes.
and avoid that rush hour that happens from 10 to 12.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Give them
That
the
would
ability
work.
to go there, but you just can't do it at the peak times.
And do you have volunteers? Do you think that would be open to doing that early on Saturday?
I think we'd have to get some other volunteers. They're working 5 days a week, and the volunteers love it because we don't have any set times. But because of the traffic on a Saturday, we have to have people there.
Mhm.
It has to be manned all the time. That's the other issue, is that we're gonna have to have people that are dedicated to be there on a Saturday.
All right, so I'm going to move on with the discussion. There's a reason it's closed on Saturday, because there are challenges with how busy the recycling center gets on Saturday. But we have an active group of trying to figure out how to open it up.
Yes.
Item 6, Christine, do you have anything?
I don't. I apologize. My brain might be less fried after the holiday.
All right, we're gearing up for real progress in 2022. On item 7, do any folks on the call have something to report on the sustainable CT action items, or directions to pursue? Otherwise, I might consider.
Yeah, I think Monica may still be on the phone, and I keep running into things where I just really don't know how to navigate town hall, and I don't want to be disturbing you, Monica, all the time. I'm not quite sure how you would prefer us to channel requests. I mean, just a couple of examples. I had a nice meeting about what we do to stop people from homelessness. And one of the action items that we have is that we need to designate a person who's focusing on the problem. Well, we've already done that, but we need to document how we've done it. And then you also need to have some kind of a resolution passed that says, this is something that we want to be doing. And then, so that's on that side. The other side is, I was told quite some time ago, before COVID and other crises have been hitting town hall, that it was the intention to redo the purchasing for the town, the purchasing policies, and that there was an interest in incorporating into those policies some sustainability measures. I don't know who actually is assigned to do that, so that I can talk directly to them and help them get some of the information that would be useful to them. So I find myself sometimes stymied and not quite sure who to turn to, and I know that others on our committee might be in a similar situation. Craig has always been very well plugged into town hall and has kind of monitored that. I don't know how much Caroline is plugged in, certainly better than me, but how would you like us to proceed?
Okay, you're catching me off guard on this. Craig, how did you proceed in the past? And is this something you want to go through at this time? Or is this a conversation I should have with Cliff, not during your meeting? I want to make sure that this is where you want to spend your time.
I think, well, what I have witnessed so far is that you are reviewing tons of information and you are consuming it, and it is now your job and your primary focus. So I would have a sense that if you could summarize how the administration could be helpful in pointing you in the right direction in an email, I wouldn't hesitate, if it's in bite-sized bits, to send an email to Monica, copy Carolyn and me, and we'll take it one at a time. Monica was very basically, your question back to me after we met with you is, how can I support your efforts? So and you always have the ability to tell us, you know, maybe one email a week and not more than that, or however you want to coordinate it if it gets too much.
Okay, I guess Cliff, start off as Craig suggested would be give me a chance to see what the issues are. That would be helpful. And then I will be able to steer you to whomever here is the best person to address whatever those questions are. But if you could copy in Craig and Carolyn, that would be terrific.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other items on the sustainable CT action items?
Craig, I met with representatives from the Connecticut Green Bank on November 17th regarding the CPACE program. As you know, we got credit for the existence of the program on our last application, and that can't really be forwarded. We can get 5 points because we have 3 commercial building owners who applied for a CPACE in the relevant period of time. And the idea is that if we can get 2 more, then we can get 10 points. So I'm trying to strategize with them how best to help them identify people who might benefit from this program. And then if 2 more, and then we get points for that. And then if 2 more sign on, we'll get additional points. So I'm working on that action item right now.
Awesome. Participation in the CPACE program. I think one thing we ought to talk about, you know, the holidays are coming up. You guys tell me what your appetite is for a special meeting before our next regular meeting, which would be on the 12th. So that would really be, you know, say the 22nd of December or the 5th of January to have an hour where we focus back on the sustainable CT items. Is that something you're interested in doing before the next meeting, or would you prefer to have this respite for the holidays and then focus on special meetings thereafter?
Can I start?
Yeah, absolutely.
My preference would be to have another meeting that's dedicated just on sustainable CT, because I would feel a lot more comfortable knowing that we have some kind of anchor in each one of those categories, or we're close to having an anchor in each one of those categories. Because once we have that, we can build on points, but we're not going to have an application if we don't have something in each category.
I think that's great focus. So the focus for the meeting is let's confirm at least one item in each of the 12 categories. We don't have to go into depth with more items in a single category, just to confirm what is our one definite in each category so we can see if we have weaknesses there. I like that idea. Now, would you prefer the 22nd or the 5th?
Either one is fine for me.
Fine, either one.
Anyone else?
I would say the 5th.
Okay. Pam, you're on mute.
Either one, I'm fine.
I have this sort of standard standing meeting now at noon on Wednesdays every week. It's just, that's where I'm.
So we can do a different time or a different day.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's my issue.
Is there a day that works better over the next 4 weeks or time?
As I said, it's just that Wednesday it's just getting a little crunched.
Maybe Wednesday at 1 or?
Yeah, we could do Wednesday at 1. That works too.
Okay. So if it was Wednesday at 1 on the 22nd or the 5th, do you have a preference?
I'm just looking. I would rather do the 22nd personally. Oh, wait. Shit. Sorry. I don't think I can do the 22nd. Sorry.
Okay. So that's 2 votes for the 5th, I think, out of the crowd, and a bunch of votes for either one.
That's fine.
All right,
If it's
start
a
off the
one.
new year. Start off the new year strong. Would that be the way to say it?
Mhm.
All right, so it looks like we'll set up a special meeting on January 5 at 1 p.m. And the focus will be making sure we have at least one action item in each category covered.
Craig, just a procedural question. For our last application, Kathy was the person, she was sort of our point person who oversaw the entire application. Has she agreed to do that again for this application?
Yeah, I'll reach out to her. You know, the invite to this week's meeting got bounced back by her email, and then I reached out by text, but then I never closed the loop. So it's Opt Online. They've been having lots of troubles with, at least for my email. I get bounced by everybody who's got an Opt Online account. So I will reach out to Kathy and find that out. It would be great because, you know, again, in terms of strengths and institutional knowledge, she has spent a lot of time getting very familiar with that program. It would be wonderful if she would be willing to be the linchpin in that.
It would definitely make things smoother and easier for the rest of us, right?
Sounds good. All right. So where are we? I think under marketing, outreach, and education, I wanted to point out that, again, Carolyn wrote 2 fantastic articles that appeared in the Darien Neighbors magazine. Again, it's this kind of, if you just look through the archive of everything that we've done on letters to the editor, articles, posts, there's a wealth of information there. Those articles read very well to me. I think they're great stuff, and they can be, the content can be recycled again and again. So if everybody
January has an article. I wrote another one for January that is basically kind of explains the updated bottle bill, just sort of like a timeline of implementation. So people, because there seems to be a lot of confusion, and understandably so.
Yeah, we certainly, I mean, I think one of the things that would be helpful, and Pam, maybe this is another area that you could look at, is look at these articles that Carolyn has written over the last couple of years for Darien Neighbors magazine, because we can, you know, basically rob that content and put it elsewhere, you know, whether it is a letter to the editor or encouraging the Times to have an article or posting it on a website. So good stuff.
Is there anyone who's interested in writing an article for the February issue? It's a 500-word article. The deadline would probably be toward the end of December. That's the lead time for the article. Okay.
I could do later in the year, Carolyn, just not February.
I was gonna say I'm out of the country for work for like a week and a half in January. It's kind of challenging.
But both Christine and Pam, you both would be interested in writing articles for later in the year?
Sure.
Okay, great, because I helped them put together the editorial calendar for the year for this particular column, and I'll talk to you about when you would like to do it and what you would like to write it on, so it can we can slot you in.
Okay. Perfect.
If they're interested in an article on leaf blowers, I think there may be one available that can be recycled.
Yeah, are you talking about Bill Cavers's article, which was in this past year's?
Oh, was that in the same publication?
Yes, yeah, and they don't like to recycle the exact same articles. They like them to be a little bit different. So maybe Bill might be interested in doing something. If there's some news to bring to the issue, he might be willing to update that article.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was the same publication.
Yeah. But Cliff, you're a great writer. Would you be interested in writing something for sometime during the year?
Well, I need to have a topic that I was kind of keen to write about. So
Yeah.
Do they want an article on homelessness in Darien?
The column is our environment, so it's more geared towards sustainability and that is part of our application.
It's a broader view of the concept.
Yeah. Well,
Might be an interesting way to say that sustainability isn't just, recycling and trees, right? There's a bigger
exactly.
conversation around sustainability. Maybe that is how the segue can move.
Okay. Craig, how about you? You're a good writer.
I wrote it down. I put a note, and maybe I was going to think about some things that I might be able to write easily. So
You could.
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying yes.
I think a couple of years ago, I wrote something about like what not to put down the pipes. I think it was during the early months.
Oh yeah. So I could come at it either. Well, I could come at it either from the sanitary sewer perspective.
Yeah.
Or I could come at it on the stormwater perspective, where I also have some strength. Yeah. Okay.
Good. That fills up next year's calendar. It has a good start.
And you're already starting to walk like a chairman. Put people on the spot and get them to volunteer.
I hate to ask people to do things.
Yeah. So the last item on the agenda before we stop on time is just, I keep it on here to keep it front of mind, that we still want to look into a new solar array for the senior center side of Town Hall and its feasibility. And we are still very interested in beginning a municipal transition to electrical vehicles really as soon as is appropriate and makes sense for vehicle infrastructure.
I can tell you that the electric vehicle part, that Kate is interested in pushing that forward also. So you may hear about it during the budget season.
Great.
Okay, it's great to hear.
And don't forget, on EVs or something like it, we still have not availed ourselves of the Sustainable CCT Community Matching Grant. All right, so if we get at least 5 people in the community to donate to something, we can then get matching funds from Sustainable CT. So whether it's putting in a charging station in some public place or getting the town's first EV, whichever department might take it on, we likely have some matching funds available to us if there are community people also donating to the cause.
And were the materials that I was able to gather and send to you, were they of any use? And is there anything else that I might be able to do to help you in terms of preparing the way?
Yeah, I need to extend my day by a couple hours. Right now, I haven't been able to do too much with that clip, but yes, the stuff there was I did get through some of it, but not all of it yet. I'm sorry.
And please fix the sewers and solve our stormwater problems.
It's on the list also.
Oh.
Can I ask one thing, Ed? Since you mentioned the budget season, is now the time that we should be getting a list to you of anything that we might want included in next year's budget?
On my calendar, I think last week would have been a good time to get me that list. But get it to me as soon as you can. If there's something I can put when I meet with Kate in January, I will do that. So please.
Okay.
Like I said, I always do put a little bit of money in for you folks, for us to do some printing, advertising. I have some money set aside in the waste area for signage, things like that. But if there's anything that's bigger, I need to know about that sooner rather than later.
Well, I'm just thinking like, I'd like to be able to do the compost giveaway next year, and also a paper shredding event, at least one paper shredding event, because people ask about that all the time. And if we if we don't get the grant, if we, it would be nice to be able to get the nice green organics toters that we've talked about instead of using curbside toters. And, those are a little bit pricey.
So those are, I mean, that's excellent. So put that in an email, get it to Ed, because those are, things that we can price and put in a budget request. The only other thing I have is whether or not we want to do a direct mailer on the food scrap program to get something in the face of each, or I guess I think that I think the way to really get people's attention is to have something in the permit renewal envelope. I know that you tend to send out those little quick
great
green
idea.
cards, those little quick green cards, but maybe we could look at the cost of how to mail an envelope, and you've got the green card, you got the renewal for your dump sticker, but then you also have our little card on the food scrap program right in there. So they have to open that envelope and they have to look at it versus another card that literally I am throwing in my recycle bin on my way to the front door.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's a great idea. Because that's my concern about doing a direct mailer, is that I don't look at my direct mailers.
No, same with email. Is that an email I need to read? No, delete. Is this a piece of paper I need to read? Nope, delete.
Nope.
It's how quickly I can do that is how I'm operating. So,
But I think it's clever to think about a required item that you have to look at.
Yeah, put it in with that. So if you want to renew your dump permit, yeah. Oh, and by the way, we have a food scrap program that we want to.
Or even, rather than it being an additional piece of paper too, can we talk to them about putting some, like a little, just bold statement in there, as well, just in the letter.
Yeah.
So Craig, what Greenwich did is they piggy banked off of their, when the tax bill went out, they included, I don't know if it was a flyer or a postcard with that. So I did contact Kathy Larkins, the tax collector, and the concern there is I kind of thought it would, like in Greenwich, that it would kind of just be like, at no cost, but the tax bills are prepared by a professional, and there would be an additional cost to adding another piece of paper, and there would be possibly an additional cost of postage. So it wouldn't necessarily be quote unquote free. So we may, although that would reach more people possibly than the permit renewals, it might be more cost effective to include it with the renewals.
And those are an apt audience anyway, of individuals already interested in coming to the recycling center. So it's slightly more targeted.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm pretty much on a hard stop. I'm really sorry. I just today's
we're ending. And it sounds like I think Carolyn, if you could take that list of 3 or 4 items and get them in an email to Ed, copy me, and I think Ed, the one item that we might need some support with is, and maybe you can have your administrators kind of think about this, is how we could use permit renewal time to advertise to the food scrap program, and what incremental additional cost would it be to do that?
Craig, we've been doing this food scrap program. I said Carolyn's been doing it, and we've been following her for a couple of years now. And we've been slowly trying to target or get people's attention, or I am not shy about asking Kathy to get me an estimate of how much it would cost to put it in the tax bill. We hit every single one of the Darien residents. There's no special group. There's no one you're missing. You'll never run into someone that said they didn't know about it anymore. If that's an investment in getting this thing off the ground to where it's, starting to gain more traction, then, let me get a number from her.
Yeah, if that's the easiest way to do it, let's do it.
Yep. No, she definitely offered to do that. So, I'll get back to her and ask if she can do that.
Okay. Because then if I have to find the money, let me start looking. Let me look now. let me put something aside if I have to.
Okay, I'll add that to the list. I'll add that to the list for the next year's budget. Money to include postcard or flyer in tax bill.
Okay, and I wouldn't be concerned too much about the compost that we pay for to get back. It was like $700, $800.
You can find that in your budget.
My waste disposal budget is over 1.2 million. I think I can find $700 for you to buy some compost.
We
Okay.
did have people asking about the compost give back. So I want to, we had it the one time, and then, it would be
More than
nice to
happy to
have
do it
it
again.
as a regular thing.
I'd like to do it, love to do it again.
All right, sounds good, folks. I think we're ready to adjourn.
One
go ahead.
more thing, Craig. Ed, if you could set some time aside for Craig and I and Carolyn to continue to discuss the Saturday swap shop, I'd appreciate that. Because I think it's doable if we can brainstorm it.
Is it helpful to do that?
I'm not busy
after the
Christmas
swap
Day.
shop?
We can meet Christmas Day.
Bring your leftovers so we can food scrap them.
Dan, absolutely. Let's get a time to do that.
Right, thanks, Ed.
We're
Yeah, I think it's doable if we could brainstorm it. There are ideas there.
going to adjourn at 1:04 p.m. I'm going to stop
Okay.
the recording.